Good afternoon, dear friends, and welcome to the simulation again. Today we are going to continue our conversation about the consciousness and the psyche structures. Last time we were talking about a person's picture of the world. Inside this picture of the world, there is a person who is a player. That is ludio, a player in Latin. He has a consciousness which creates this reality. He has an observer, aka the Absolute, which models this game. Thus, our body enters the game. I'm in, I'm game, Amen, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. This is one frame of reference. In fact, these components of the psyche, they are truly divine. The consciousness is divine, the player is divine, and the observer is also absolutely divine. But there are another control structures which reside in our psyche for the game to take place. I will draw them here. Maybe it's not very symmetrical, but it doesn't really change the essence. Which structures have we omitted when we talked about them? For example, to create this reality, we need to create space and time. So space and time. And what else do we need to make this reality possible? We need attention. That is, we need to observe this reality. That's interesting. It turns out that each of these control structures, time, space and attention, is a characteristic for each of the divine structures, the consciousness, the player and the observer. So this is very interesting. When we observe a person, the platforms in his psyche structures are built this way. Does it remind you anything, my friends? Yes, surely, we are familiar with this term. This is where we begin to come across mysticism. We have just entered the first platform and it already has an interesting shape. Let's give consideration to this. If we have logical thinking, we take a minute to consider how many points the person is able to keep his attention on when he is unfocused. And any psychologist will tell you that there are 6. 6 is the maximum number of points which a person is able to concentrate on in the unfocused state, my friends. And how many structures do we have here? 6. And now let's talk about awareness. So what is awareness? I will even take a mobile phone and read out loud what the awareness is by social standards. It is a term in current psychology is defined as a constant tracking of current emotional experience, that is the states when a person focuses on living in the present moment, not getting involved in thinking about past or future events. This is an ability of consciousness to introspect personal activity. So, in fact, what is awareness about? It is about dwelling in the present moment and retaining the through unfocusedness. We have already defined that 6 is the maximum number of points which a person is able to concentrate on in the unfocused state. Thus, if we insert the ignition key, and it is the 7th element, Do you think I will give away the secret today? No, you will figure out this by yourself. So this key will be the 7th point, and your psyche won't be able to keep it in focus. This is an interesting game, isn't it? Those who created it knew very well where to insert this ignition key. And look, don't you want to connect anything here? The consciousness rules space, the player rules time, and the observer is characterized by attention. Can you imagine if we overlay one platform on the top of the other one and move it? Then we turn 6 into 3 and we receive one structure, the structure where B and K are combined. Do you remember we called these structures B when we introduced this scheme? And K, the control structures, are united. Thus, when we combine the structures, and we do this during the update, what we receive? That a person has only 3 points to concentrate on in the unfocused state. When we talk about awareness, and when there are 3 of them, we are able to perceive psychologically the key in the ignition switch. What might this key be? I will give you one more hint, my friends. Where is the observer's attention directed? Here. When we create space, where we create it? Here. When we talk about the time, where the events occur and where the player is playing? Here, in the picture of the world. In the picture of the world. This all occurs in the picture of the world. And where should the ignition key be directed? In the opposite direction, my friends. In the opposite direction. Electric schemes, yes? This is inverse relationship. I can't believe that you didn't figure it out. For those who didn't guess what this ignition key is, those who didn't guess and ask me in the comments under my previous video, tell us what the ignition key to this game is, what really starts the game, what helps a person to be consciousness and to create, exactly to create, to manifest himself. Everything has been created exactly for a person to manifest himself and to enjoy this game, simply to enjoy this heavenly, wonderful reality. What makes a person tick? What runs the engine, which starts the game? If you are attracted to this topic, if you are interested in INFODIVING, and if you want to learn how to control all this process, to create your life by yourselves, and to receive the results of your work reflected in the material world, and not just to dream up the results, but to observe the results, how they come true, depending on which sphere you pay attention to. You can be manifesting in absolutely different spheres, somebody in business, in medicine, in science, in creation, in various spheres. We are all different, we all have different types of psyche. However, we all have potential inside. Because there are different players and everyone has different preference. Somebody enjoys ice cream and somebody prefers cakes. And somebody doesn't like neither ice cream nor cakes. Do you understand? So those of you who just want to figure out this all in practice, I should mention in practice, because we do everything step by step and in practice. We invite you for training to study INFODIVING. And the very first basic course, where I'm going to finally give you the key and tell you what this key is to this particular technical device. This first course is going to start very soon, on Saturday and Sunday. It is called Awareness and INFODIVING. Awareness and infodiving. Eugene Volkov and I are going to teach this course. Why Eugene Volkov? Because we need to calm down the mind. I have just excited it. Now the mind can play with this information, explain to oneself, and so on. And this suggests blocks. Each block represents a microcircuit. And if we observe it closely, we'll see that each microcircuit has particular connections, particular wires, particular regularities, and particular operating peculiarities. In fact, this is a huge amount of information. But one day you will need to make the first step, because our psyche is incredibly interesting. And there always have been a lot of disputes over it, a lot of substitutions. But we consider, at least here in INFODIVING, we took as a basis, as truth, the results of our influence. If we can influence, and this result is reflected in the external world, this means that our settings, our programs, our firmware have been done correctly, and the rest will come. That is, we concentrate on the results, and the results, as all people are different, only the results can be repeatable. And the algorithm itself can be different, according to every person. When you understand how everything works inside, correspondingly, you will provide an individual approach to each person. But there are particular bases which are necessary to be trained at the early stages, for you to clearly comprehend where we are going, what we are doing, what infodiving is, how it differs from hypnosis, to adopt the basic practices, the basic techniques, and to receive your basic experience. I invite you to the course Awareness and Infodiving, where I will finally tell you what the ignition key is in this scheme.